In many slave societies, literacy was restricted. In the American South, enslaved people were forbidden by law to read or write. After slave rebellions, laws became even stricter. Teaching a slave how to read or write led to jail, fines, or even whippings. The reason why owners were so strict on not teaching a slave is because reading gives access to ideals, religions, laws, and worst of all, maps. Writing basically meant communication, planning, and escape. Literate slaves were seen as dangerous to the system. And so if slaves couldn't escape because they couldn't read the exit sign, what does that tell you about the average day person's understanding of the world around them? There are many entrepreneurs on this platform that call labor workers the modern day slave force. And to an extent, it's understandable because most people don't like their jobs, but they can't leave. But I wouldn't say it's as bad as slavery because at least they get to go home unscathed, at least most of the time, because some people work brutal jobs. So when you think about an exit sign, we're talking about maps, how to go somewhere, what signs say, what it says on the road to escape. If a slave wanted to know how to escape a town, they would read the sign that says exit over here, different town that way. Whenever escaping, you need to be fast. So that 5-second difference of not being able to understand something clearly could mean the difference between life and death, especially when urgency is at play. And it's the exact same ideology with us versus the people around the world. During times of war, there are many of us who catch the signs before it actually happens. But the ones who don't know how to comprehend, which is a part of reading, end up being dragged into situations they had no idea were taking place because they couldn't tell the signs. The truth is, America isn't a place, it's the matrix. And the people who are stuck in it cannot see what is happening right in front of them. It is very obvious to people who study conspiracy theories and psychology behind politics. Things like how you can't really vote for a party no matter what, you are usually voting for the same group of people. But someone who's not in deep on that side of the internet doesn't understand these things. And so that creates a divide. And so early on during my life, I started learning what things meant. I was into conspiracy theories around 2012, and one of the first things I noticed is www, which if you translate to Hebrew, it equals vav vav vav, which is the 6th letter of the alphabet, which if you were to put it in numerological value, it would equal 666, the mark of the beast in Christianity, the one in Revelations. Now, I'm not saying that the internet is the mark of the beast, but I do find it odd how this is oddly fitting, especially stuff like the Monster Energy logo, which has monster, and then it looks like vav, 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 which are claw marks. Now, this is something that was very obvious to me because I looked at the Hebrew language early. But when I started talking about these things at an early age, people started to look at me like I was crazy because they couldn't understand the language. And it's the same way with slavery. How do you expect to escape a prison you don't understand the full infrastructure of? It's the same way how some dogs can open doors, but some dogs are stuck behind the door because they don't know how to stand on their 2 legs and twist. A slight difference in understanding how things work can determine whether you escape or not. And so with that just being one part, imagine how many parts the average person doesn't know compared to someone who's dedicated their entire life to research this. Those are just one of the symbols. You probably haven't seen any of the other symbols that are constantly flashing in front of your eyes on a day-to-day basis. That would possibly be against the religion that you are currently a part of, if you believe in a God. All of these symbols, words, gestures mean something else in a different language. For example, in the Old Testament, job means persecuted, but today for most people, it just means employment. And then we have words like nice, which in the 1500s means ignorant or foolish. But here's the thing about words. They all carry a certain vibration, which is why whenever a girl calls a guy a nice guy, it feels sort of disheartening when they hear it, right? It feels like they've done too much. It feels like they're doing something they shouldn't be, which if I heard that, I would sort of take offense to that. And since nice means ignorant or foolish, whenever you are nice to someone, you are treating them better than they should be, which is ignorant and foolish. And so if the meaning of job never changed to the ones running the system, what if it still means persecuted to them, but not to us? Persecution means hostility, ill treatment, especially on the basis of ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation, or political beliefs. A job is a paid position of regular employment. At a job, you can get fired or bad treatment based on what you post online. They're always checking for that. We've seen things like the Charlie Kirk situation where people have simply stated their opinion of what happened and then they got fired the next day. Doesn't that sound like something familiar? Many have said jobs have hired less races than others, and we have definitely seen this in the past with numerous cases where companies would legitimately not hire people because they were African American or Mexican. This is why racial suits are filed often. And one thing TikTok has opened many people's eyes to is how racism is still a thing in the United States of America. We see plenty of content creators posting stories about how they were badly treated at work and how they saw another race treated right. So maybe the vibration still holds power over the word. I'm not saying these words currently mean these things, but when you look at the past history and when you look at the way they're used now, it doesn't seem like much has changed at all. And even in our slang today, we use bet, right? Which is the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And whenever you say bet to a person, you're connecting to them. And if you look at the definition for Hebrew, it actually means duality, connection between this and that. And that's what we use it in our current day as slang. This is why I say words hold vibration. It's everywhere if you look hard enough. And here's one of the things about the English language that I find to prove that we sort of got the lower end of the stick. This isn't to say it's bad to speak English because I'm speaking English right now, but there is something definitely off about how we write our words. The fact that the entire language is written backwards from Hebrew, which is supposedly God's original language, combined with the fact that Satan likes to go backwards from whatever God does. He likes to do it upside down or left to right. So knowing that English is backwards to God's language, wouldn't that cause some sort of confusion? Wouldn't that be going the other way than God says we should go in? Why is it that it is so easy to make immorality look right nowadays? Because until I started getting deeper into the world, until I started understanding other languages and cultures and how things actually worked, I was still in the midst of deciding, is this right or is this wrong? And it's because of our perception. Why do you think Satanists have upside down cross? They're not rocking St. Peter's cross. And then I found this weird fact that the English language value in geometrics is 6, which if you know anything about 6 is ruling the planet Saturn, which is the 6th planet from the sun. And if you know anything about astrology combined with esotericism, you know that Saturn has a lot of ties to Satan. I mean, they're only a few letters off, and they both act in the same way. Saturn is just a planetary description. Saturn likes to punish people, give karmic lessons. During Saturn periods, you're usually in a compromising position. And then when you think about Satan, Satan punishes people. Satan puts people in compromising positions. It's basically the exact same thing. But Saturn would be the planetary description and Satan would be the personality. Meaning overall, the only languages where you could truly understand what is going on are languages written in the form of Hebrew. And while studying Hebrew, some of the Jewish people that I talked to told me that this isn't even the original Hebrew that Moses spoke. They said the one that was originally used had different compounds attached. But this would be close enough to learn. I mean, it's what all of the Jewish people are speaking. I'm pretty sure the one that they said is original wouldn't be far off from the one that's out here today. And then when we think about our effect with society correlating with our language, we see that the public really doesn't care about others' issues. I mean, we hear about cobalt mines, the ones used to make our phones in other countries, apparently not really our issue. Even though they're attached to the devices that we use today, others just don't care. But when someone passes a law here and we don't like it, we feel the effects of it and we start to complain. And because we're not really feeling and seeing the effects of what's happening to others due to our languages being different, which it's understandable because how could you care about anyone else in the world when you have your own issues to deal with? But to what means does not caring have an effect on you? Because eventually, if you're allowing it to happen in another place, it's going to happen at your place. Think about it. English could be possibly desensitizing people from what's going on because every time something is happening, there's always some new fancy terminology or law placed that sounds good to the public but has a terrible effect on other countries. Under that law, it's describing something that is completely wrong as legal because it falls under this phrase or it falls under that phrase. Adding in new words to curve something into a new light. If someone just said straight up to you, hey, I like to make money using kids in another country to work in my fields, and this is how they ran their business. If that's what they put there, no one would buy from it. But if they put, oh, I like to sell commodities through trading, through suppliers who are outsourcing their labor to foreign entities, that sounds more professional. So you see what I'm saying? It's not different, but it sounds different. And that's exactly why in English, you can't really understand what's going on, because every time something is happening, they invent a new phrase for it, which is why no one is reacting to any of the stuff that's happening today. We could use this in news articles over and over again. It's rhetoric. Collateral damage instead of civilian deaths when someone got hit by a car. Job creators instead of the wealthy. To paint someone who is rich in an image as they are out here giving people access to success. Freedom fighters instead of, I can't go. And so you could see how these things could just pan out, right? I made a video discussing the Statue of Liberty and how the Statue of Liberty is actually Lucifer. And if I were to just say the Statue of Liberty is Lucifer without explanation, like I'm doing now, which you're gonna have to watch that whole video, I'm gonna have to add it in later, you would take it as I'm saying something that's demonic or I'm talking crazy until you had it fully explained to you. And this is exactly what phrasing does. See, if you put a dress on a pig, put enough makeup on it, hide all of its features and its skin, no one would recognize that pig, but that pig would still be a pig. And that's the exact same thing. Now here's the thing with Hebrew. In Hebrew and other languages that are backwards to English, you can still create rhetoric. It is just not as easy for those who excel high in that language. And it is more straightforward to excel high in Hebrew than it is in English, because every language has a compound that creates. It's like you're building with a language as you understand it. So your understanding gets higher the more you speak it. Most Hebrew words derive from 3-letter roots. Katav, he wrote. Mishtav, letter. Kutav, written. And since you could see all the letter combinations and what they root down to, if you try to decode it, you can see what is actually being written. But in English, you can't do that. You just get your A, B, C's and then put the words together. Like I said, they're teaching the combinations. This is a language that gives more understanding over time because it's teaching people the core of each letter. The pattern recognition becomes a standard, not something that speakers have to be talented at to understand. However, this does not make it immune to rhetoric, manipulation, or deception at all. It just makes it harder to do. One of the greatest examples that I've been seeing recently of how adding a new word or making something seem different can change the entire perspective of it is what happened when Diddy got caught for doing all this crazy shit. Instantly on social media, they were saying he pulled a Diddy. You got Diddified. They were making jokes left and right. But what I want to know is, what would they be saying if those jokes weren't actually coming out? They would be using the word pedophile, not P. Diddy, P. Diddified, making people look at the situation as serious as it actually is. And so when you see all of these edits coming out, all of these content creators making jokes about the situation, it's working, and this is what has been going on for the longest time period. How is it that horrible things are happening to kids and nobody's taking it serious? Because they always put a joke on it. They always put a new phrase on it. They always call it something else than it actually is. And with Hebrew, you can't really fake people out the same way you can do that in English. Right? It's possible, but it's much harder because you aren't just speaking words, you are speaking God. Each letter has a connection to God himself. So it is harder to be deceived with what is said compared to someone who doesn't speak the language at all. So when you look at letters like Aleph, which is beginning, oneness, wholeness with God, you can start learning each letter and see the combination that each one has combined and understand what is fully going on here because each letter is connected to a certain energy. So in other words, in order to understand and navigate the current day world, you need to understand new languages, how to read symbols, so you can navigate the world around you properly. Anyways, hopefully you guys did enjoy that video. Let me know what you guys want on the next one, and I will catch you guys later. Deuces.